Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
For this week's episode, I have the privilege of sitting down and interviewing my good friend, MGE Power Program graduate, and one of our senior seminar instructors, Dr. Artin Barzgar. Dr. Barzgar, along with his wife and partner, Dr. Desibet Pakpour, became MGE clients back in 2002, and in short order built two highly successful dental practices. And as is the case with power clients of Dr. Barzgar's and Pakpour's stature, these guys do things so well that it's really tough to pick which topic to do an interview about. That said, one of the first things I heard about Dr. Barzgar from Dr. Winteregg over 20 years ago was about his clinical excellence and ability to perform complex cases. This was back in the early 2000s. While many of our clients are more involved in that now, back then they were few and far between. As a matter of fact, Dr. Barzgar was only one of the few GPs on our program doing them at all. So I thought with over 20 years of experience presenting and closing these larger cases, it would be a good idea to talk about that as the topic for this week's episode. Specifically, what are the differences in presenting a larger versus a smaller case and how to do these things successfully. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Artin Barzgar. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing great. And
Good.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's
Of
great
course.
to have you here.
Thank you for having me here, and I'm excited to be here. And it's been a long journey, but it's always good. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too.
Thank you.
So, I mean, probably the best place to start would be maybe tell people a little bit about your story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been an MGE client for many years, and about
22 years.
22 years. I can't believe it. My white beard actually speaks for itself.
That doesn't look very white. It's much less white than mine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good mixture. But so I've been an MGE client for many years. Of course, I had two practices. My wife is a dentist with me, and I had some special implant training at the beginning of my career, which me and Dr. Pakpour, my wife, had at the same time. And that kind of triggered my interest in doing implants and doing full mouth reconstruction at that point in 1999.
Wow. Yeah, there were very few people. Usually you'd have to go to a specialist for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So this was a special training mainly for GPs at that time that wanted to do this. And the training was fantastic. It was like a residency for almost a whole year.
Okay.
So I was involved in that, and that helped me to get really my skill level up. And of course, I always had interest in surgery, so it gave me the green light to go for it. And my first case was actually a full roundhouse case at that time, which a lot of people didn't do it. That was my first implant case.
Wow.
Wow. So I really didn't start slowly. I just kind of went in for the big case, and it was a interesting case at that time. It was like a $40,000 case, which now it's not that much.
What would it be adjusted for inflation, though? Well, $40,000 is still a decent-sized case now.
Yeah, it's a decent-sized case, but it was for a patient at that time. I did. It wasn't the all-on-4s at that time. It was actually like individual implants. So I did actually like about 10 implants for this patient on one arch.
Oh, wow.
And then I did the actual crown and bridge on it. And this patient loved me. She was like 90 pounds when she came. She couldn't eat. She couldn't wear dentures because she gagged. So we made her these implants, and she gained like 40 pounds. And she was so happy. And she loved coming to the office. And the whole staff and my wife and everybody loved her. And of course, she passed away later, a few years after, because she had some other illness. But that made her so happy. I mean, we changed her life with that. So for me, always that was the triggering point for doing big cases was, I'm going to change this person's life. Wow. And that is for me, the driving force, because it requires a lot of effort on your part in terms of getting to know the patient and getting what they want and how you can help them. And when you have that, then, because you actually care for that patient, you can then, go over any obstacles because you want to help them. Right. So then it makes it possible to be able to get them to go for that kind of treatment.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And what eventually, I mean, I know this, but the listeners don't, but what eventually brought you to MGE?
Oh yeah, what brought me to MGE? Actually, just to be exact. Actually, I would say that was my first case after I came to MGE.
Oh, okay.
Because before that, I wasn't really able to even close. Be able to actually get a patient to accept this kind of treatment.
I see.
Because of course I had learned the skill to do it, but to get somebody to be able to pay for that kind of treatment, you have to have some training on how to be able to do that.
Right.
So, and I didn't have that. And of course, when I came to MGE, and I think it was just a few weeks after I got my initial training, I went back and I was able to meet this wonderful patient and, be able to then communicate with her and talk to her and be able to have her to want to do the treatment and then, for her to pay for it. So, which is generally the biggest barrier with the big cases is the financial aspect. Most people want the treatment.
Yeah, you have the clinical skill for it, but then it's how do you get them to actually be able to pay for it?
Exactly, to afford it and be able to pay for it. Now, she was pretty affluent, so it wasn't like she had to get like financing or anything like that. But now we have all sorts of options.
Right.
99, there was some, but there wasn't that many. Like it was, I think, only Care Credit.
Was Care Credit around in 99? And
yeah,
they weren't. What was their max back then, though?
Yeah, I think it was like maybe 20, 30, if I remember correctly, or maybe not even that. Yeah, so it wasn't that much that common back then.
Right.
So, but now there's a lot of different options in terms of financing. So that helps the patients to accept the treatment more.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so when you first, so you did all this training.
Yeah.
Right. All this advanced training. You're ready and raring to go to place all these cases, and then. Did you have a situation where you started presenting? Because you had your own practice, but you were also associating at the time, right?
Yeah,
This is before you came into us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And were you presenting these cases to patients?
No, I was not. I had somebody else in my office because I'd bought a practice, and there was a receptionist and the office manager that came with the practice.
Okay.
And they were presenting it.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, they were actually MGE clients. The previous doctor and the staff had MGE training.
Okay.
So they were doing the presentations, but I had no MGE training at that time because I hadn't come to MGE.
But so what finally spurred you to, I think because you probably spoke to Greg initially, right?
Yeah, I spoke to Greg. Well, what happened was my wife was pregnant.
Okay.
So
you're making me feel old now because now your son is in his third year of college?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Time just flies.
And Desiree was pregnant when you guys started, wasn't she?
Yeah, she
I
was.
remember that.
Yeah, she was. And she did her training actually while she was pregnant at MGE.
Sorry. I'm having that moment of, man, I'm old.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually bought the practice. Me and Desiree bought the practice, and it wasn't doing well.
Okay.
We didn't know how to do any of the management part. We didn't know, we only know how to do dentistry.
Sure.
So you buy a practice and you think, okay, I'm going to put up my sign and everybody's going to come to see me because I'm such a great dentist, and it's like, nothing, people were not coming in. And, so I was like, okay, I was only working 4 days at that time and my office was open 4 days. So I was like, okay, on Fridays I can work somewhere else to get some income, So I applied for a job and I went to work for, I don't know if you know Peter.
I remember Peter.
Yeah. So I went to work for him, and he gave me the job, and then one day he pulled me into his office and he was like, "How's your office doing?" Mm-hmm. I was like, "It's doing fine," the normal conversation thing. And he was like, "Bullshit." He was like, "Bullshit. The office is not doing fine." He's like, we wouldn't be here, if your office was doing fine.
Yeah, why are you working for me?
Yeah, why are you working for me? You got a pregnant wife and you're working for me. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm not doing great at all. I got a son coming, but I'm not doing great. But that's why I'm, here, and this is helping me. He's like, well, I'm gonna refer you to a place that you're gonna go, and I know when you go there, you're not gonna work for me anymore, but I'm gonna refer you. He gave me a card and gave me a number, and he was like, call them and you can go and visit it yourself and you decide for yourself.
Sure.
I was like, great, that's great. I'll do it. So then I called MGE and they were like, okay, come in for a weekend course or for a course, and my wife and I went for the course. It was a new patient course.
Sure.
So we went there and I was like, blown away. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing. Like, how do I not know about this stuff? I'm a educated guy. I've traveled the world. I read stuff, I have never heard of this stuff. It makes so much sense. It's common sense, it's like dumbed down stuff, you know what I mean? Where it's easy to understand, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, this is great. So I was actually a little bit upset at Greg. I was like, how do I not know about this? That's why I was like, how is it that I do not know? And I was just so excited to get the information. I was like, wow, this is great. So I knew that right away that that's what I needed, right? Because I had no idea how to do that part of it. And this is what we don't get in dental school. We don't get any business training. You just do the training, and we always, as dentists, we want to do the technical stuff. We're so enamored by that. And that's why I guess we go into it. I have so many cases and, my schedule is booked with production. And even when we sell an office or buy an office, it's always about the production. Right. How about the payments? How much is the office making? We don't really care about it. It's always about the production. Right. So that's what I learned when I came to MGE was like, wow, this is a business and I have to learn the business side. And that was very important to me. It was life-changing because that's what I needed. Right. But important to recognize that. And that's why whenever I talk or give lectures at MGE, is I always try to make sure the younger doctors or all doctors really understand that that's what's lacking. It's not their skill, because we always are so hard ourselves. We're all perfectionists and all that. And most dentists are, go-getters. So it drives them crazy that if they're not doing well, and they try to find a way. They look everywhere, and the problem is that you only have half of the data. You don't have all of it. The other part is the business part, and once you get that, your skill is going to speak for itself because you're able to run your business. Right. So, anyways, that's the story. That's the story. It's been extremely successful for me, and I'm very grateful. And made great friends like you guys. Along the way. So this is awesome. Yeah. So let's talk big cases for a second. Okay. Because you do big ones. I do big cases. Yeah. If you're presenting, let's say, 2 or 3 crowns versus presenting, a multi-unit case, or with a bunch of, you're fixing occlusion here and there, or you're doing you do all on 4s and stuff like that. What are the major differences between presenting a small and a big case? I think there's a couple of things. Sure. One I find that is your willingness to do the big case. Okay, is one of the important things, and you have to have the training and the confidence to do that. You're talking clinically. Clinically, yeah, because it's very hard to get somebody to accept something when they don't feel that you can deliver it, or they don't get, or more importantly, you don't feel that you can deliver it. You see, so it has to become to that level where you are competent enough in your own mind that I can take this patient to the final product comfortably and easily and get them, fully healthy. Okay. So for me, it's always been picturing the final product. Okay. And I start there. And then from there, then it's just a matter of working backwards. Okay. So, but clinically, it has to be something that I know I can do all of these cases. And the way I found this out, again, I was doing this so long, as you said, there was something. I've had many associates over the years. There were times that I had some associates that I didn't feel were able to do certain parts of the work. Okay. And I found that when I was presenting the case, or they could, but they weren't that good with it. You see what I mean? So when I was presenting the case, in the back of my mind, I had doubts about that. So then I couldn't really comfortably present the case to the patient, because in my own mind, I could see maybe there would be some trouble along the lines in terms of delivery. Or you'd end up doing it yourself. I'd have to end up doing it, or there may be some problems. So that is the important thing, is to know that you can deliver, and your clinical skill, whether you're doing it, your associate is doing it, whoever is doing it, the competence level is there, and you guys can deliver that comfortably. Okay. So once you have that, then it becomes the rest of it. The presentation is like, you know what you're doing. So that is, I think, and that's ground zero, which I like. It's something that I had to find over a long time. Like, why didn't this case, I wasn't able to present it? And the presentation has to do with that. That's a number one thing, or number zero thing.
Okay, yeah.
Because the doctor has to be competent for the big case.
Okay.
So once you have that, then the next step comes in terms of making the patient feel comfortable with that. And that, again, is related to number zero. If you're comfortable with it, then it comes across easily to the patient, and the patient can sense your confidence. And this is very important in big cases. The patient has to feel that you are competent and you know what you're talking about, and they can sense. Patients are smart. They can sense that you've done this. You know what you're talking about. So that's for you to portray that, and that doesn't mean talk about yourself. I'm the greatest,
right.
But they can sense in the way you handle them and the way you talk to them and the way you
it's almost like you
manage
exude certainty or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I think basically gets the patient to accept the case in a lot of ways before the financial aspect. So it's that they are coming to gauge you to see if you are the one that they can feel confident with. So those are the two things before the finances.
Okay. And there was something you were saying, because you lectured for us today.
Yeah.
And I walked in the room, I think it was towards the beginning of your morning. I walked in probably about 10, 15 minutes after you started. I thought it was fascinating because you were talking about building value, I think. Okay. We were talking about telling somebody, here's a pen and it's $10,000.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was actually a great example.
Yeah.
Because I think that's part of, and maybe this is, I might be wrong, but you've probably seen this where you tell a person this is going to cost $20,000, $30,000. It's not $4,000 or $2,000. There's a bit of a disconnect between why is this so expensive?
Exactly.
Would you mind sharing that again? Just because I thought that was actually really cool.
Yeah, the example?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, I was going over a pen.
Yeah.
And I was telling the seminar room that is $10,000 for this pen. And they were all like looking at me like you're crazy.
What's in that pen?
Yeah. So I was like, would anybody buy this, pen? And they were like, nobody raised their hand except one lady did.
Yeah,
I was like, wow. I was like,
want that pen.
You really like pens?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, this pen is made out of platinum and it has a sapphire on the top of it. And if you press the sapphire, whichever country in the world you go to, they're going to roll out the red carpet for you.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, who would pay $10,000 for this now? And there was like about 10 people raised their hand.
Sure.
Then I was like, okay, and then they'll give you $1 million too when you're leaving the country. And then it was like,
I'll invest in that.
So so it's like, so it has value, right? So it's important when you're talking to the patient, not just be like, okay, well, this is the treatment and this is this much. It's, like you said, it's a disconnect. It's like, I thought this was going to be $5,000. Now it's like $30,000. It makes no sense. So there is value behind our work as dentists. I mean, tons of value for the patient's health. All the psychological aspects that goes into it in terms of their smile, their confidence, the way they eat. They at least use it, three times a day for eating, their digestive tract, in terms of increasing life. All these things that are going into it. And if you don't relay that, the patient doesn't know. They're just saying, oh, well, I'm getting teeth for that much. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But you're not just getting teeth. You're getting my expertise. You're getting my time. You're getting my care. You're going to get these, beautiful teeth that wherever you go, you're going to smile and you're going to feel confident. You don't have to take them out and put them in a cup.
Right.
All those things that go into it and the confidence level that goes into it. It's just, those are the things. And when you add those things up with them, then they're more willing to move forward once they understand that. And you have to take your time to make sure they understand that it's not just teeth.
And I think if I don't mind you to interject for a sec, but it's like, so you told the story in the beginning of the just a few minutes ago where you had this lady who had gained 40 or 50 pounds because she couldn't eat before she's down to 90 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if most doctors took a look at any type of cases they had like that, and not even just the cosmetic effects where a person smiles now and is confident, but how it affected their health, their livelihood, their well-being.
Exactly.
You start to build value for yourself too as to what you can do for people.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think dentists in general, and if I can speak for our profession, we are perfectionists. One case doesn't go well, we beat ourselves up. But you have tons of cases that go well, and patients are happy, and you've changed their lives, and it's that's what we need to look at. You know what I mean? And that's so important what you mentioned, but that builds value in your own head.
Right.
That, wow, this is what I'm doing for these patients, because we're not just fixing teeth. There's the person connected with those teeth, and they have feelings, and they have concerns, and they have affection, and all these, and they have a family. They have all these things, and you're affecting all of it.
Right.
So it's really, really a phenomenal profession.
Right.
And, I'm grateful to be in it. Yeah. So and I enjoy it. So it's something I've always wanted to do since I was 4.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
That's cool.
So it is something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But that aspect of it, of selling the big cases or being able to get the patient to accept the big case, is actually my favorite part.
Doing the larger cases.
The larger case, so actually doing the dentistry, but also the aspect of getting them through to accept the treatment and to pay for the treatment is something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
Because that is a hard part for them. Those patients are actually the ones that, over many years, the ones that come into the office and are looking for me to hug me, because I've changed their lives.
Wow.
Because if you didn't persist and you weren't there with me that first day, there's no way I would have done this.
Right.
So those things are the tear jerkers that, affect you over the years and make all the trouble worth it.
Yeah.
The trouble of our profession, the things that you go through, it makes it worth it.
Right.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So then, as far as mechanically speaking, so you're presenting a small case and a big case. I mean, what are the main differences? Obviously, maybe more time.
Yeah, I think you definitely need more time. I always allot a lot of time because I consider everybody's coming to me is going to be a big case.
Sure.
So that, I think, if you, what is that saying? If you put it there, it'll come.
Sure. There's a number of ways I've heard it said, including in Field of Dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, for me, it's always like, it's all going to be big case. And I kind of advertise for that.
Got it.
So, and most of my clients are old.
Okay.
So in general, their mouth is, in a situation that they want to, now they've put their kids through college and all of that, and they want to take care of themselves.
Right.
So, that's what I'm expecting. But in terms of time, yes, it does take more time to do that, mainly to handle the objections of the patient in terms of cost.
Okay.
And then also there's sometimes the fear of, I actually get a lot of fear patients.
Just in fear of the dentist, or in fear of having their teeth worked on?
Fear of dentists and fear of dentistry.
Got it.
In general. And we have learned to handle that. I mean, I have tons of scared patients because they won't go anywhere else.
Wow.
Because I take the time to go over things, and they actually become very good patients because we handle their fear. And then they start to get, better and better with it, and they start to feel comfortable, and they like the office environment, and they like the doctor, and then it becomes out of the fear. They come out of the fear because then they are, kind of in an environment that they like going.
Yeah, they see it wasn't all that bad.
It wasn't all that bad. Yeah.
Right.
So it's really in the handling and in the understanding of the patient, which that first appointment is really, really important. And to answer your question on the big cases.
Yeah.
It's handling those things, talking to the person and not to the teeth.
Right.
So you really have to take your time and be able to observe and see what are the issues. Why didn't this patient go earlier? That's a valid question.
Yeah. Why did it have to break down so badly? I
Yeah.
guess.
Why did you wait all this time to get that? So it's really getting into a real conversation with the patient rather than a more of a systemic one. You're just kind of in a full conversation mode and getting them to open up to you. And once you do that, it will change their whole view of everything, and they will feel comfortable because they can open up. And then you can handle whatever the situation is, because you can't really handle it if they're not giving it to you.
Right.
So what you're going to get if they don't open up is, I'll have to go think about it.
And then, but as far as the amount of time you spend doing that, like you have your diagnostic time.
Yeah.
How much time, let's say I'm coming to you for, and I'm going to probably need a big case, right?
Yeah.
I need it all on 4 or 6 or all on X. So you have the diagnostic period, but how much time are you allotting for the actual consultation?
About an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, but my schedule is where I do surgeries one day. So my office is only open 3 days.
Okay.
So I see surgeries on Monday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday I see new patients only.
Got it.
So, and I had to do that so that I could give my full attention to these new patients. Mm-hmm. I did not want to have somebody waiting for me in a room for a procedure, and my mind is concerned about them waiting for me.
Got it.
So I had to separate my days where I see new patients only on certain days, and then I do the production. And of course, the associate produces all 3 days.
You have an associate going while you're doing the
Yeah.
Okay.
So then this allows me to, and I have my front desk staff and my treatment coordinator that can present some other smaller cases. If I'm involved with a big one,
okay,
then it doesn't back up the office if I run over.
Okay.
So we are able to manage that.
Got it.
If need be. But usually about an additional hour, like about half an hour for the exam and an hour for the consultation.
That makes sense.
Is adequate for me. Initially, it would be 2 hours. Like when I first started, I would need about 2 hours or longer sometimes for some of the bigger cases.
For the diagnosis and the...
Yeah, because it just took me longer to figure out,
Right.
But I've been doing this now so long where it's easier for me to get into that open conversation with them quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
So then as far as, okay, when you present, so let's say now you're down to presenting the treatment plan with this larger case, is the treatment coordinator there with you the whole time?
No, the treatment coordinator is not there at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I present the case to the patient, and then I handle any objections that they have. And then I go over the financial aspect with them too. Once I've gone over it and they're accepting or agreeable to what I told them and they like what I told them, then I go over the cost of the treatment.
Okay, now you just said a lot of big things there that are like I want to make sure, because I could see people listening going, how does he do that? How does he do this? So let me unpack a little bit of that. Is that okay?
Sure.
Because the first thing is, let's talk objections for a second.
Yeah.
What are the biggest ones you get, or the most common ones you get?
The one that I hate the most is I got to go talk to my spouse.
Okay.
I hate that one.
How do you normally handle that one?
I generally handle it before the patient even comes, because when my staff in the front desk are talking to the new patients, it's always, if you have a significant other that's going to help you make the decision, please bring them along.
Got it.
So that is an initial thing that we do. So the spouse is there.
So they just turn to your left. He or she is right there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that kind of prevents everything. But if they're not there and then they're like, I have to go talk to my spouse, I generally ask them if we can call them.
Okay. See
if we can get him on the phone. Usually it's okay. Sometimes it's like, no, he's working, I can't, or whatever the situation is. And then if they can't get him on the phone, I ask them, it's like, do you think he's going to, object to you taking care of your teeth? Because if I had this issue, I'm sure my wife would be okay with me, taking care of it. Yeah. And usually they'll kind of open, no, he's not going to object to it. So then we can kind of proceed, from there.
Got it.
But sometimes it is a case that, they have to go speak to their spouse, and that's kind of a dead end at that point, and we have to reschedule the appointment.
Have you ever had it where they bring you set up another time where they bring the spouse back to talk to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had it and a lot of times where they didn't. But there are times that we do get them back with the spouse. And then we can go over the treatment. But I generally don't show them the cost or anything at that point.
Got it. Before if they're going to have a spouse involved. That's smart.
So so if they have if they can make the decision, then we move forward with the cost.
Okay.
Otherwise, I keep them to come back.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how about I want to think about it? Do you hear that often or no?
Yeah. For me, that's always, I didn't understand the treatment.
So here we are. You're talking to me. You've just told me what I need or what's wrong and what you want to do. Have we gone over cost yet or no?
Generally, we do go over the cost at that point. After that, if they're okay with it, and I see that they're everything is
right.
good.
So I'm probably not going to tell you I need to think about it till I see the cost.
Exactly.
So then I see cost and I go, yeah, doctor, this is a big decision. I'm going to have to think about this. What would be your response to something like this?
Yeah, and just before that, usually if it's the treatment and they say I got to go think about it, we're already not talking about the cost already.
Right.
So then but if we get to the financial aspect and they say that they have to go think about it, I usually will go over the treatment again.
Okay.
Because I say, yeah, I understand, that you need to think about it, but let me show you this.
Got it.
I show a different aspect of it with the picture, with the diagram.
Got it.
And try to drive it home more, like how this is going to affect their health, how it's going to, the infection is going to spread, their chewing, their bone is going to get smaller, whatever the situation is. I try to then explain it a little more in depth, but shorter version, and usually to the effect of what's going to take place if they don't do it.
Like, what are the consequences?
Consequences of the not doing it.
Okay.
So, and then I go over the cost again at that point. Usually that second time there is something that triggers in their mind that, that they didn't really maybe hear the first time I went over, or something triggers in their mind that, maybe that they need to look at this a little closer.
Right.
So I see that they have more attention on the second one after I go over it.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting point, right? Because I know what you're doing there, right?
Yeah.
And it works, obviously. It's working for you. But most people don't realize this, because I remember the first time I told somebody to do that, just, go over the treatment plan again.
Yeah.
Right? And I get this weird look. What we don't realize is with advertising, we'll see the same ad like Geico. Yeah. 80 times, but it gets firmly, but maybe the first or second time we kind of ignored it. But it was the third, when you see something for that third, fourth, or fifth time, that's when you go, wait a minute, what is this?
What is that? Yeah.
So the fact that you're going over it again, or maybe showing another aspect, you're building more value, finally it wakes the person up to go, oh yeah, maybe what he's saying is important here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then a lot of times I go over it the third, and my minimum rule is 3 times.
Wow.
To go over it at least 3 times. And then sometimes more. Again, my patients are elderly. I have to go slowly.
Right.
Make sure they fully get what's going on.
Right.
But I can tell you tons of cases that were accepted after the first one.
Okay.
After going over it one time.
The one shot through. You're fine. Yeah.
Because on the second or the third time, whereas if I stopped, I would have lost a $30, $40, $50, $60,000 case.
Wow.
If I didn't go over tons of them.
Interesting.
And you just have to ask.
Right.
And you just have to go over. And in terms of I think we'll get into the payment part also.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about next. We can just talk about it now if you want. So I guess, let's say things are rolling well.
Yeah.
And I'm showing all the right signs. I'm interested. I really want to know about this. So now you're going to get into finances with me.
Yeah.
So how does that go? How does that work?
Yeah. So I go over the finances with the patient, so not my staff.
Do you give me like the cost first, and then like how do you do it?
Yeah. So I usually have the treatment plan sheet, which my staff have given me. So I will go. I know what the final amount is. So I have a sheet. It's called the payment option sheet, and I can provide that for you.
By the way, you'd offered to allow us to have that as a download, this payment option sheet. Yeah. So if you go to the episode webpage, Dr. Barzgar is very, very happy that you did this. We have you can download it by clicking on the episode webpage. This specific, you call it your payment options sheet.
Yeah. Yes. And it makes it very simple for the patient to look at the information in terms of the payment and decide on one of the options.
Okay.
So I found that during the day when they come, it's a long appointment. They have to drive to come in. Like I said, my patients are elderly.
Sure.
So they get tired, and it's just and it's a lot of information thrown at them, a lot of mumbo jumbo dentistry terms sometimes, So we try to eliminate that as much as we can, so that they can understand it. But I want to make it simple, the selection of the payments for them. So it's right in front of them, and it's not just verbal. So I will write down the full amount, and then I will do the payment plans, the different options for the payment plans. I will write the monthly amounts.
And that's on that option sheet. Yeah. So it's like, your treatment plan is $30,000.
Yeah.
And then here's the breakdown. If we finance it like this, it's this, or like this, it's this. And I can pick which one I want.
Yeah. And it's just like a ABC kind of thing. So it's, and I always tell in the seminar, who wants to take a, essay type exam? Nobody. I'd rather have a multiple choice. Yeah, why do we put these people through that? So let's give them a multiple choice.
Right.
And I have actually a check mark next to it where they can actually like.
That's even that simple.
Yeah,
check A.
Just check. Yeah. Yeah. So you just check the box that you like.
Right.
So the important thing is after going through that, at the end of it, I ask them, which one of these payment options works best for you, and that is what. After I say that, I don't say anything.
Okay.
And I just wait to see what they say. And again, really, really important to stay still. Don't move. Don't be like, banging on the thing with your pen. Don't be fidgeting around. Just stay quiet and look at them. They're going to do some weird things. Pull their hair. They're going to put their hand, their head in their hand, they'll put their hand in their pocket. They'll scratch. They'll do all sorts of stuff. Don't interrupt it.
Okay.
They're thinking.
The wheels are turning.
Wheels are turning. They're trying to figure out which one, and it may take 2-3 minutes of silence, and you just let them, do their thing.
Interesting.
And then they'll say, I guess if I have to do it, it'll be the no interest option. And, I usually have them put a check next to it. I don't do it. I tell them, okay. So they'll please put a check. So they put a check. Okay, great. So here's the application. I have the applications in my room and I put it in front of them. I don't like to switch hands at that point. It's like very important that they've made a decision at that point not to interrupt that cycle. So I have the application. I put it in front of them and said, please fill out this form so we can get you set up for the option that you chose.
Right.
And then they fill it out. Once they're finished completing it, and then I'll tell them that my front desk is going to do the application and they'll bring them the paperwork to get them signed up.
Okay.
And that's usually.
So that's beginning, middle, and end right there.
That's it.
That's great.
It's pretty A to B the way we have made it. But yeah, it does take some, you got to do it over and over and it gets easier as you go. But it's phenomenal. So
it's interesting. One thing you said here, and because I think we did an episode a few weeks back on like closing.
Yeah.
Right. And there's this datum out there. Like, if you say, there's some truth to this datum and there's also a falsity to this datum. There's this datum that when you say something to the prospect, like, do you want to do it? You can't say anything. Right. And the first person who talks loses. Right. And I'm like, that's not totally true. But then there are different, what you just said, that actually had that's correct. And there's a reason behind it. So you've asked the person a question.
Sure.
You've asked them a question.
Yeah.
Hey, what would you like to do? And I like how you put that where you don't fidget, you don't do that or whatever. You're trying not to distract the guy.
Exactly.
You're saying, which payment option would you like? They haven't answered your question yet.
Exactly.
And it may take 2 minutes to answer your question. It may take 30 seconds. I might say something, which one do you like? I don't want to do any of them. I've given you an answer. Now you know what you need to handle.
Exactly.
Or I might go, but then, if you're banging your pen like this, or if you go, well, would you like this one? Now you've got me I'm not answering your question.
Exactly.
What you're doing is smart. You're asking a question, waiting until you get an answer. And that is the correct way to use that. But it's rare to see that. That's what I'm saying.
That's, I think it's great. And you actually mentioned something that I wanted to make sure. So, if you go over it and then they say, no, I don't want any of these options, then at that point, you go over the treatment again.
Got it.
So that's an important factor, and I'm glad you brought that up because if they say that, then you just go over the treatment one more time,
right?
And then go over the sheet, the payment option sheet again, and again you wait out the time again, and it's just like the same cycle, but you have to go over it again, right? Because they took a little bit of time to think about it. They're thinking about it still, but you have to drive something home a little bit more,
right? Yeah. No, and I love this because what you're talking about is stuff. I mean, obviously, we've talked about for years and years.
Yeah,
right? You've lectured at our seminars, but this is stuff people get wrong. In that someone will have a problem. Well, I don't want to pay this. It's too expensive, whatever. And then they start haggling about money.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's not the money. You're going right back into the treatment plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the part that needs to be gotten home because it really didn't, and that's why they're having this objection.
No, that's smart. That's smart. Okay, so I guess what I would ask, how I'd end off, right, would be if someone wanted to start doing bigger cases and closing bigger cases, right?
Yeah.
How would you tell somebody to get started? Like, so let's say I'm a GP and I'm just doing, regular, normal run of the mill dentistry, but I want to do stuff like you do. What would you tell me to do?
I think the first step would be you got to get your skill level to the point that you're comfortable doing those procedures, and then really just allot enough time on your schedule. You need to work also on your in terms of your presentation, making sure that you're able to present and also be able to care for the patient.
Right.
So all those things kind of go together. But one of the most important things is treatment planning. You need to know how to treatment plan these cases.
Right. Because
an all on fours, is fine. It's all on four because either the teeth are all gone, need to be gone, or they're gone already, and it's an empty jaw and you're trying to restore it. But what I'm talking about is reconstructing the mouth, even if they have some teeth, and combining implants and teeth, which is generally the best way, in my opinion, to do. So you need to be able to treatment plan all of that, and be able to treatment plan the movement of the teeth, if you need to move them with Invisalign or whatever you need to do to get the gums in shape, to do the implants, to do the cosmetic work, all of it. And then you got a treatment plan that's like whatever the cost is.
Right.
But that's what you're taking into. But that takes listening to the patient, what they want, and then recognizing what's in the mouth, putting it all together, and then having the tools and being able to say, okay, well, this patient wants a cosmetic workup, so I'm going to do the cosmetic workup with implants for them because that's what they want. Right. So being able to see it and treatment planning, and then I would say work on seeing the final product. For me, it's become easy over the time because when I look in the patient's mouth, I do the exam, I see the final product already, and I can work.
And you've done so many.
Yeah, so you just see you just know what you got to do, and that's the thing. It'll come for you, but the key is to have the tools, and then okay, well, I got to use this, do this, and implants here, lumineers in the front, get the gums in shape, so then you get the whole mouth, worked up.
Yeah.
So and that is what it takes to get to do the big case. And then recognize what it is. If you have to pull the teeth and do implants, then that's what you got to do. If you need to use the teeth that are there and add to them, then that's a different. So all of that is recognizing the situation and then treatment planning accordingly.
Got it. Okay, good. Well, yeah. I mean, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me to come to the podcast. I've watched your episodes and now I'm on it.
So now you're on.
Yeah. So
what I'll do, I'll put a link to the the payment option sheet.
Sure.
We'll put that on the episode webpage. Also put a link to the patient workshop, which is the first course you attended.
Phenomenal.
As well as to the MGE Communication and Sales Seminars, which Dr. Barzgar is one of the speakers at. So if you want to meet him in person, you can come to those. I'll put links to it on the episode webpage. Awesome. Otherwise, again, Artin, thank you so much for being here this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And if you, that's all we have for you this week, folks. If you want to find out more about MGE, you can find us online at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Have a great week, and we'll see you at the next episode.